Hey, so I've been scouring the internet and I have found a bajillion videos on the Enneagram, but none that encompasses exactly what I want for this very brief introduction. And this brief introduction is not for everybody. It's for those of you who are going to do a deep dive into the Enneagram with me on a retreat and or a class. But excuse me, mostly this is for the folks getting ready to come on a retreat with me. And there's three components. There's three buckets on the retreats: mindfulness / Buddhism practices, philosophies, the Enneagram, and parts work, IFS. And the reason that the Enneagram fits so beautifully in the middle of that is because on the Enneagram, there are 9 personality types, but there are also wings and subtypes that actually mean there's 27 personality types, but we will get into that, not on this video. Well, a little bit on this video because I'll talk about my type, but I wanted to read this. This is this one little passage from this book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and it talks about essence and personality. The core truth that the Enneagram conveys to us is that we are much more than our personality. Our personalities are no more than the familiar, conditioned parts of a much wider range of potentials that we all possess. Beyond the limitation of our personalities, each of us exists as a vast, largely unrecognized quality of being or presence. So if we're talking about the Enneagram, we're talking about essence, being, presence. Most of us have some notion about what personality is, but the idea of essence is probably foreign to us. When we talk about essence, we mean it in the literal sense of the word, what we fundamentally are, our essential self. Okay, so that's the Enneagram. And then in parts work and IFS therapy, there is literally the self that we're trying to be self-led. So we have these parts that come up and drive our emotional bus and get in the way of our capital S self being self-led. And it's the same thing with the Enneagram. So what happens with the Enneagram is in each type, there's an arc of transformation. So I'm a type 7. It's easiest for me to talk about myself because we're narcissistic. Just kidding, although not kidding. And actually, let me back up. When I started reading the real books, not just the horoscope books and the trendy books about the Enneagram, I found this woman, Helen Palmer, who's like the godmother of it. And when she talks about the history, the history is that it was probably some Sufi ancient wisdom that they found in cave drawings. But then two different groups of people got a hold of it: spiritual people and psychological people. And the spiritual people, what they did is they correlated the 9 types with the 7 deadly sins and then added 2 because they had to be 9. And then the psychological people kind of attached the 9 types to analytical continuum of well-being, right? So the analysts don't call people narcissist or borderline or paranoid. They think we're all on a continuum. And so the 7, if you're looking at it from a psychological point, would be on the narcissistic continuum. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm a narcissist, right? It means at my worst, I have narcissistic traits that are probably more prevalent than somebody with a 2. Although we all have narcissistic traits. So anyway, sorry, that was that was an aside, but not really. And so, okay, so the arc of transformation. So as a 7, on every Enneagram type, you have a passion and a virtue. Okay, and that is the arc of transformation, to go from the passion to the virtue, right? And then eventually get to our essence. Okay, our essence in the Enneagram is our self in parts work, right? But how I see it is, in order to get here, we have to look at our internal system and the protective system and the parts that are getting in the way of us reaching here. So the Enneagram is the roadmap, and the parts work are the hurdles to get over, the speed bumps to drive around, or to flatten out. Not completely flatten out, because there are no bad parts, but to get to know and befriend them and transform them. So it's all about transformation. Okay. Some people will say, well, I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to be labeled. What I have heard and what I have experienced is that I'm already in a box. And these tools, whether it's parts work or the Enneagram, what they do is they actually give me some knowledge of the box. And actually, that's Buddhism and mindfulness did that for me, a long time ago. It gives me awareness of the box I'm putting myself in, or the culture is putting in, or what my family put me in. And it gives me the tools to get out of the box. And as a healer and practitioner, what I really want to do is get everybody out of boxes and create more circles, right? So these healing circles are really what is transforming people. Okay, so in the Enneagram, there are 9 types, but we also have wings, we have subtypes, we have centers of intelligence. I do want to tell you a little bit of my story. One of the things that got me really into the Enneagram and put it in my toolkit for teaching is this book called The Buddhist Enneagram. When I was listening to it, and she got to the 1, my heart just burst open because I realized I have been living with a 1 for over 30 years. And his way of being that I would sometimes take personally was actually his way of feeling safe and secure. And in some ways, his way of showing me love. So I won't go too much into it, but 1s tend to be perfectionistic and quite rigid and believe there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. Well, that just used to annoy me. I mean, not always, for God's sakes, it's been over 30 years, but when I read about it and heard about it and discovered more about it through the Enneagram, literally the compassion I felt was brand new and beautiful and connected. And so that's what made me realize I need to incorporate this into mindfulness, Buddhism, parts work. So that's where we are. I'm going to share my screen so I can just, so my whole point of this video is just to get you thinking in hearing some of the terms we're going to be using. It's not to type yourself because that takes a while. I typed myself as a 4 and an 8 back when I was looking at it just as a tool to use, a party trick, something to pull out in a group if nobody was talking. Okay, that was not the right way to use it. Now, after digging into it, I have such reverence for the teaching of the Enneagram. And so what I'm going to do is just get you familiar, hopefully, with some of the terms so that when we do a deeper dive, we can, actually, I'll just go right to this. You'll just be familiar with it. So we're just not, just giving you a little bit of a leg up. So these are the triads. There are 3 triads. This is the body, or what some people call the gut triad. This is the heart triad, and this is the head triad. And so I want to read, I love what Sue Piver, how she explains these are called centers of intelligence. So it's just going to take a second, but the 9 types are divided into 3 triads according to the 3 centers of intelligence. And so we each possess all of them. That's the other thing. That's where most people get bogged down. They start taking a test or doing the tool that I'll bring on retreat, and they're like, oh, I'm all of these. Well, yes and no, right? I'm a 7, but I can also, I can get caught up in images and workaholism, which is more of the type 3. I can be a people pleaser helper, which is a type 2. I can be kind of moody and feel so unique and always, look at what's missing in my life. That's a type 4, right? So we all have some of all the types. So don't let that box you in. But when you finally land on what your type is, what your wing is, what your subtype is, I don't know, there's a beauty and a freedom in it, in this self-knowledge, that for me unlocked so many secret passageways to that arc of transformation. So that's my hope for you. So she says we all possess all 3 of these forms, but one of them is primary. The 3 intelligences are mental, emotional, intuitive. Okay, so this is the mental, this is the emotional, and the intuitive. It's not always easy to discern. What I call intuitive, you may describe as emotional. What I call knowing, you may call sensing, and so on. But one way to begin to discover your intelligence is to look at the likely responses to stress. So if you're intuitive center, right? If you're an 8, 9, or 1 in challenger, peacemaker, reformer, if that is the strongest, when life does not go according to plan, there's a gut reaction of anger. Okay. If your dominant intelligence is mental, that's the 5, 6, 7, the head triad. When life is challenging, you might over-rely on this capacity. Under threat, thinking speeds up, otherwise known as anxiety or paranoia. And if emotional intelligence predominates, so this, if you're the heart triad, I'm sorry. Yeah, emotional, the heart triad, predominates. Under threat, your emotions become unbalanced. This can look like a kind of hysterical neediness or its cousin, depressive numbness. And here's the thing, we can all, sometimes I'm anxious, sometimes I'm depressed, sometimes I'm thinking, even though I'm a 7, okay? So that doesn't mean that I don't have all those other things. It just means predominantly this is where I am. And it's true. I mean, that's the other thing about 7s. We reframe everything into light and airy. It's just funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's interesting the more I know this about myself. And again, my arc of transformation is from gluttony to sobriety. Okay. Now, what that means is I have a hard time with present moment. I need more. I need the intensity to be higher. I need, if one Enneagram book is good, then 20 is better. And so my arc of transformation is to sobriety. That has nothing to do with abstinence, but what it has to do with is constancy. It has to do with sitting here now and being okay with what is, and understanding that actually safety and security isn't about future planning. It's about being right here, right now. And that sometimes future planning takes me out of the here and now, which is where the safety and security could be. But I miss it if I'm not aware of it. I'm the person when I'm on vacation, I'm planning the next vacation. And I used to say, well, that's just how I am. It's just how I am. And now I say, oh, yeah, that's how I am because of these things, because of my childhood, because of my motivations for fear and for my motivations for security and safety. And then these are the ways we integrate or disintegrate. And again, I'm going to go over this just briefly. I'm going to use my type because I know that the best. So 7. So I'm usually go with the flow. The reason this video is so hard for me is because if I wrote a script, it would stress me out. I have to kind of just do it. I have a basic scaffolding, but this is how I do things. If I prepare too much, it completely throws me off. I can't do it. But sometimes going with the flow isn't a good thing, right? So sometimes I need to get out of my type a little bit. And anyway, so my 7, if I get really stressed, so it could have been just doing this video, it could be before a retreat or before I'm teaching a new class, I will disintegrate into the worst qualities of the 1. Now, no type is better or worse than another, but there are 9 distinct healthy to kind of unhealthy ways of being within the types. So a 7 who's completely unhealthy is basically what someone would call a narcissist. It's all about me. I don't care about you. Listen to me. So anyway, but none of these are better or worse. But when we're disintegrating into the type where the arrow is going towards, we are disintegrating into the worst parts of that type, not the best parts. Okay. So when I'm getting ready to go on a retreat and I'm working with my massage therapist who's going with us, and I'm showing her the different spaces where she can do massages. And I'm saying, okay, so 60 minutes, right? And then she's like, yes, but 60 minutes doesn't mean the person getting dressed and coming down. And so then it's 75 minutes. And I'm like, you said 60 minutes, it's 75 minutes. And she's like, well, you knew that anyway. But the whole point is that's not where I usually resonate. I usually resonate with like 75, 80, who cares? But if I'm stressed, I'm suddenly a 1 who knows this is right and this is wrong. And 60 minutes means 60 minutes, not 60 and a half, 61 minutes. I mean, so I hope I'm describing that right. When I'm at the best, when I'm not only a 7, but I'm a 7 that is calm and cool and collected and just, just bathes my brain in the best meditation session ever or the best retreat, then I take on the highest qualities of a 5, which is so interesting to me because if you're a 5 or you learn about a 5, it feels so like almost against what I am as a 7, but they tend to be a little more reserved. They have a little bit more ability to go within and wait until they get the right answer before acting. And so when a 7 can take on those qualities, it's pretty amazing. So hopefully you'll see some of that when you meet me. So anyway, so that's the other thing. We integrate, we disintegrate. And that's why when we go through this and try to figure out what our type is, we're like, wait, I'm a little bit of that, I'm a little bit of this. It's because we're not, the circle is never ending. Okay. So, okay, these are back to the triads that we were talking about. I think this can be helpful too. So the heart triads are motivated by what will others think? The head is, how can I solve this? And the gut is, what is wrong here? Okay. The focus of attention, heart looks out to what others want. Head, look within to what I want. Gut digs into my own opinion. Perspective, life is a task, heart. Life is a problem, head. Life is a battle, gut. Wants to fix the problem, understand the issue, control people and circumstances. So again, I think as you're preparing to come on the retreat, you can just start thinking, just start noticing, oh, I'm stressed. Where's my attention go to when I'm stressed? What do I feel when I'm stressed? What do I not feel? What do I push down when I'm stressed? I think all of this can be really helpful. And again, the point is to get in that arc of transformation. So what I'm hoping that you'll get on this retreat is a roadmap, and then understanding your internal system, getting that to relax in order to get there. So I'm super excited about it. And I hope this was helpful and didn't confuse you. But if it did, maybe that'll help you figure out your type. And then we can discover it together. It's going to be lovely. Can't wait to meet you. Be well. Peace.